Welcome back to the Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm Emma, and today's episode is all about improving your English listening and writing skills through real-life stories. If you're looking to enhance your listening abilities and expand your vocabulary, you're in the right place. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident listening to everyday English conversations. Before we begin, I have a couple of questions for you. How often do you practice your English listening skills? Do you find it difficult to understand native speakers when they talk quickly? Let me know in the comments or think about it as we go along. Now, let's dive in. In today's episode, I'll share a story from my own life that helped me improve my English skills. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to visit a small town in the countryside. I was staying at a cozy little guest house run by a lovely couple, Sarah and David. They were very friendly and we quickly became friends. One morning over breakfast, David shared a funny story about his childhood. He told me how when he was younger, he tried to build a treehouse but it ended up falling apart because he didn't use the right tools. He laughed at how embarrassed he felt when his friend saw the broken treehouse. But he said it taught him a valuable lesson. Always ask for help when you don't know how to do something. That story taught me something important about language and communication. It wasn't just about the words David used, it was about how he told the story. His tone, the way he paused for a fact, and the expressions he used made the story come alive. When we learn English, it's not only about understanding the words but also about understanding the emotions behind them. Listening to stories like David's will help you not only understand English, but also use it in a more natural way. Let me share another story from my friend Mark. Mark is a journalist, and one day he told me about a challenging interview he had with a famous author. He had prepared a lot of questions, but during the interview, the author started telling personal stories about her travels and experiences. Mark said he was so caught up in listening to her fascinating stories that he forgot some of his prepared questions. However, by the end of the interview, he realized he had learned so much more than he expected because he had listened closely and asked follow-up questions based on her stories. This taught Mark a valuable lesson in conversation. Sometimes the best way to learn is by truly listening to others, even if it means going off script. These stories aren't just for entertainment. They are examples of how you can improve your listening skills by paying attention to the way people speak. It's not just about vocabulary or grammar, it's about understanding the flow of the conversation and how emotions are expressed through language. Now, let's take a moment to talk about how you can practice your English listening skills more effectively. One great way to improve is by listening to real-life stories, just like the ones I've shared today. You can find these kinds of stories in podcasts, interviews, or even when chatting with friends. The more you listen to natural conversations, the better you'll understand the rhythms and patterns of spoken English. So, I encourage you to press the like button if you're enjoying this episode. It helps us know that you're finding these lessons useful. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. We upload new videos regularly to help you improve your English every day. One afternoon, I visited my neighbor, Mr. Thomas. He's a retired firefighter and always has great stories to tell. We sat in his garden drinking tea, and he told me about a time when he had to rescue a family from a burning house. He said it was one of the most difficult days of his life, but also the most meaningful. The fire was strong and smoke-filled. The house quickly. He and his team worked together to bring everyone out safely. As he spoke, I noticed how clearly he described the situation. He used simple but powerful words, and he paused at the right times to make the story more real. For example, instead of saying, "It was dangerous," he said, "We couldn't see anything, but we kept going because we knew someone needed help." That sentence made me feel like I was there with him. This is a great example of how storytelling can make your English more interesting. When you tell a story, think about what the listener might feel. Use clear, simple words and describe what you saw, heard, or felt. This will help your writing and speaking sound more natural. Another good story comes from my friend Rachel. She runs a small bakery near my house. One day she told me how she started her business. Years ago, she used to bake bread and cakes for her husband and children. Everyone loved her cooking, and her friends encouraged her to start selling it. She was nervous at first because she didn't know anything about business. But she took a small step. She started selling bread at a local market every weekend. The first few months were hard. Sometimes no one came to her stall. Sometimes people complained about the prices. But Rachel didn't give up. She kept listening to her customers and made small changes. Now her bakery is very popular. She even teaches baking classes to other women in the community. Rachel's story shows us that learning and growth take time. Just like learning English, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going, keep trying, and learn from your mistakes. And when you listen to someone's story, you also learn how they use English in real life. So, while you're listening today, try to notice the structure of these stories. How does the person begin the story? How do they move from one part to the next? What kind of words do they use to describe feelings or events? I want you to think about a story from your own life. Maybe it was your first day at work, or a time you helped someone, or maybe a time when you learned something new. Try writing that story in English. Don't worry about mistakes. Just focus on telling it clearly, using the kind of language you're hearing here. Let's hear one more story. This one is from a man named Kareem. Kareem works at a community center, helping people who have just moved to the city. He once told me about a man who came to him for help finding a job. The man didn't speak much English, and he felt shy. But every day he came to the center to learn new words. He practiced filling out job applications and learned how to answer interview questions. After a few weeks, he applied for a job as a cleaner at a local office. He didn't get the job the first time, but he didn't give up. He kept practicing. On his third try, he got the job. Kareem said the man was so happy that he cried. Not because it was a big job, but because it gave him hope and confidence. This is the power of learning, and this is why you're here, listening, improving, growing. Keep going. You're doing better than you think. Now, I want to tell you a longer story that comes from someone I met last year. His name is Daniel. Daniel is a man in his 40s, and he works as a bus driver. He lives in a small town, not far from the city. He's a quiet person, but once you get to know him, you'll find that he's full of wisdom and kindness. He once told me a story that really stayed with me. It's a great example of how even simple life situations can teach us something important, and also how people speak naturally in English. Daniel said that when he first started working as a bus driver, he felt nervous. He had passed all the driving tests, but he wasn't sure if he could handle the pressure of having passengers, keeping time, and driving in heavy traffic. On his first day, something unexpected happened. A woman with 2 children got on the bus. She was carrying many bags, and she looked very tired. As she walked to her seat, one of her bags tore open, and all her things fell onto the floor. Daniel could have just waited, but instead he stopped the bus, left his seat, and helped her pick everything up. He also gave her a small plastic bag from the front of the bus to help her carry the items. The woman looked surprised and said, "Thank you so much. You're the first person who's helped me today." She smiled, and the children waved at him. That small moment gave Daniel confidence. He said, "After that day, I understood something. It's not just about driving. It's about being kind to people, even in small ways. Over the next few months, Daniel made it a habit to greet every passenger with a smile and a kind word. If someone looked confused about which stop to get off at, he would take a moment to explain. If someone seemed sad, he would say something cheerful. One rainy day, an old man got on the bus. He was wet and cold and he looked a bit lost. Daniel asked him if he needed help. The man explained that he had missed his usual bus and didn't know how to get to the hospital where his wife was staying. Daniel gently explained which stop he needed and offered to let him sit close to the front so he could remind him when it was time to get off. The man thanked him and said, "Young, stories like this show us something very real. We don't need big moments or exciting events to learn or grow. Even regular days, with simple acts of kindness, can teach us about life and about using English in a natural way." The way Daniel told the story was calm and clear. He didn't use big or difficult words. He just explained what happened, what people said, and how he felt. That's the kind of storytelling that helps you improve both listening and writing. Now I want you to think, have you ever had a simple but meaningful day like Daniel did? Maybe you helped someone in your neighborhood. Maybe you spoke kindly to a stranger. These are great moments to write about. Try writing a short paragraph about one of those days. Focus on what happened, how people reacted, and how you felt. Don't try to make it perfect. Just make it real. Let's move on to another story. This one comes from a woman named Emily. Emily is a nurse. She works in a health clinic in a busy area of the city. She told me about her first year on the job. She said it was very stressful. Every day she had to care for many people, and some of them were very sick. She often worried she might make a mistake, but she kept going because she knew that her job was important. One afternoon, a woman came to the clinic with her little boy. The boy had a high fever and was crying. The mother didn't speak much English, and she looked very worried. Emily calmly helped the child, gave him medicine, and explained to the mother, slowly and clearly, how to take care of him at home. She even wrote down the instructions on a piece of paper so the mother could remember. The next week, the mother came back just to say thank you. The boy was healthy again, and the mother brought a small thank you card. Emily said that moment reminded her why she chose to become a nurse. It was not just about medical work. It was about making people feel safe and understood. She said, "Kind words and a calm voice can help people more than we realize." That story also teaches us about communication. When we speak clearly and with care, people understand better, even if they don't speak English very well. And when we listen carefully, we learn more than just words. We learn feelings, thoughts, and experiences. So now, ask yourself, what is something you've done for someone that made them smile? Or what is something someone did for you that helped you during a difficult day? These moments, even if they seem small, are full of learning opportunities. Write about them. Speak about them. Share them. This is how your English becomes more natural, more human, and more connected to real life. Let's take a deep breath together and remember, every small step in your English journey matters. You're not just learning grammar or vocabulary. You're learning how to understand people, how to tell your story, and how to connect with the world. And I'm here with you, every step of the way. Let's continue with another long and helpful story. This one is about a man named Richard. Richard is a builder. He works on homes, helping people repair broken walls, fix roofs, and sometimes build small new houses. Richard didn't always have this job. When he was younger, he worked in a factory, packing boxes. He did that job for many years, but one day, the factory closed, and he lost his job. That was a very difficult time for him. Richard told me that after he lost his job, he felt confused. He didn't know what to do next. He had a wife and 2 children, and he needed to earn money. He didn't have many skills at the time, and he had never used a computer. He thought about giving up, but one evening his friend Peter came to visit. Peter worked in construction, and he said, "Why don't you come with me tomorrow? You can help me on the site and see if you like it." The next day, Richard joined Peter. At first, he just carried tools and cleaned up around the area. But slowly, he started watching closely. He learned how to mix cement, how to measure wood, and how to place bricks. After a few weeks, Peter let him try some tasks on his own. Richard said it was the first time in months that he felt useful again. He wasn't perfect at first. He made small mistakes, but Peter corrected him kindly and helped him grow. Over time, Richard became very good at his work. He started working full-time with Peter's team. Then, after 3 years, he opened his own small business. He called it Honest Hands Construction. Now he has 3 people working for him, and they get many jobs from people in the area. Richard's business became known not just for good work, but for being on time, polite, and helpful. He told me, "Sometimes it's not about what you already know. It's about your attitude and your effort." Richard also said that one of the things that helped him most was learning how to talk to clients clearly. Many people who hire builders don't know the right words for materials or tools, so Richard always makes sure to explain everything in simple English. He even shows pictures or draws small sketches to help people understand. That way, his clients feel comfortable, and they trust him more. Let me give you an example. One time, Richard was fixing a kitchen for a family. The wife, Sarah, wanted a new countertop, but she wasn't sure what type to choose. Richard showed her samples and explained the pros and cons of each. He said, "This one is strong but expensive. This one is cheaper but needs more care." Sarah appreciated his honesty and chose the one that was best for her family. She later recommended Richard to 5 of her friends. Now let's look at how Richard used English in his job. He didn't use difficult words. He used simple, clear sentences. For example, instead of saying, "This material is structurally sound," he said, "This wood is strong. It will last a long time." That's the kind of English that works well in everyday life. You don't need to sound fancy. You just need to be clear. So what can we learn from Richard's story? First, never give up when life becomes hard. There's always another path if you stay patient and open-minded. Second, don't be afraid to learn something new, even if it takes time. Third, practice speaking clearly and kindly. People will remember how you make them feel, not just the words you use. Let me tell you about another person. Her name is Anna. Anna works at a grocery store. She started working there when she was 20 years old. She didn't have a lot of experience, but she always smiled and treated customers with respect. One day, a man came into the store and asked where he could find cooking oil. Anna smiled and said, "Aisle 4, next to the rice." But the man looked confused. He didn't understand the word aisle. Anna noticed this and quickly changed her sentence. She said, "Please follow me. I'll show you." She walked with the man and pointed to the cooking oil. The man smiled and said, "Thank you. My English is not very good." Anna replied, "That's okay. You're doing great. We all learn step by step." That small conversation helped the man feel more confident, and it helped Anna become more aware of how to speak in a way that others can understand. She later told me, "Now I try to use easier words and speak slowly when I think someone is still learning English." These moments are powerful. They show us how small actions and simple words can make a big difference. Anna didn't need to give a long speech. She just noticed the situation and responded with kindness. That's a skill you can also develop by listening carefully and choosing your words with care. Now think about this. Have you ever helped someone understand something? Maybe you gave directions. Maybe you explained how to do something simple, like cook rice or fix a tap. These are real-life stories that help you build your English in a natural and useful way. Try to write one of these stories in your own words. Keep the language simple. Use words like I went, she said, he asked, I helped. These are the building blocks of good English communication. Let's continue with another long story. This one is about James. James is a father of 3 children. He works as a delivery driver. Every morning he wakes up at 5 a.m. He eats breakfast, checks the delivery list and starts his route. He drives to many houses and offices, dropping off packages. Some days are easy, but other days are full of challenges. One day, James had a flat tire on a country road. He didn't have good mobile signal and no one was around. He looked at the time and saw that he had 10 more deliveries to make before 2 p.m. Instead of getting angry or giving up, James took a deep breath and started changing the tire himself. It was raining and his clothes were wet, but he kept working. After 30 minutes, the new tire was in place. He drove off, and even though he was late, he still delivered all the packages. When he got home that night, he was very tired. But he told his wife, I feel proud. I didn't quit, even when it was hard. James's story teaches us about responsibility. It also teaches us about staying calm during problems. When we speak or write in English, we can also talk about situations like this. It helps us practice past tense, action words, and time phrases. For example, it was raining. I changed the tire. I kept going. These are simple and useful sentence structures for everyday English. And here's another small detail. James also talks to many different people during his day. Some people speak English well, and others are still learning. He always speaks clearly and says things like, your package is here, or please sign here. He doesn't use difficult words because he knows not everyone will understand. This makes communication easier and better for everyone. So remember, you can learn English not only by reading books or listening to lessons. You can also learn by listening to real people's stories. Stories about work, family, helping others, solving problems, and staying strong. These stories are all around you. Just open your ears and your heart and you'll find them. And when you speak or write, think about sharing your own experiences in this same way. Would you like to hear more? Let's keep going. Let's continue with another story. This one is about a man named George. George works as a mechanic in a small town. His job is to fix cars, motorcycles, and trucks. He started learning about cars when he was very young. His father was also a mechanic, and George spent many hours in the garage with him. He learned how to use tools and fix problems with engines, tires, and brakes. Over time, George became very skilled at his job. He loved working on cars and solving problems. But like many jobs, there were challenges. One day, a woman named Linda came into the garage with her car. The car wasn't starting, and she was worried it might be a serious problem. George took a look at the car and tried to start the engine. After a few moments, he knew what the problem was. The battery had died. He smiled and said, "It's a simple fix. I can replace the battery for you, and your car will be good as new." Linda looked relieved, but she also asked, "How much will it cost?" George explained the price clearly, making sure Linda understood. He said, "The battery will cost around $100, and the labor charge will be another $50. So, the total is $150. Linda nodded and agreed to the repair. She was happy that the problem was simple, and she trusted George because he explained everything in a way that was easy to understand. But here's what makes George's story interesting. A few days later, Linda came back to the garage and she told George that the new battery didn't fix the problem. The car still wouldn't start. George felt bad that she had to come back. So he told her, "Let me check it again for free. We'll find out what's really wrong." After a closer look, George discovered that there was another issue, one that wasn't related to the battery. He quickly fixed the problem and didn't charge Linda anything extra. Linda was so impressed with George's honesty and kindness that she told all of her friends about him. She said, "George is the best mechanic in town. He didn't just take my money and walk away. He really cares about helping people." This story shows how important it is to be honest and clear when talking to others, especially when it comes to money. George used simple, easy English to explain the repair and the cost. He didn't try to confuse Linda with complicated terms. By doing this, he gained her trust, and she became a loyal customer. This brings us to an important point. In every conversation, whether it's about work, family, or something else, being clear and honest is essential. If you're learning English, try to practice using simple, direct sentences. If you explain something clearly, people will understand you better and they'll trust you more. Now, let's talk about another story. This one is about a teacher named Sarah. Sarah is an English teacher at a high school. She loves teaching, and she's very good at helping her students improve their English skills. But teaching isn't always easy. One of Sarah's students, named Tom, was having trouble learning English. He found it hard to remember vocabulary, words, and he often struggled to understand grammar rules. He would look at the board and feel lost. One day, Sarah noticed that Tom was having trouble. After class, she asked him if he was okay. Tom admitted, "I just don't understand how to use these words in sentences. I try to learn, but it feels like I forget everything." Sarah smiled and said, "Don't worry, Tom. Let's find a way that works for you." She suggested that they practice together outside of class. She told him to make flashcards with words and pictures to help him remember. Then she gave him some exercises to practice at home, where he had to use the words in sentences. Over the next few weeks, Tom's English improved. He started to feel more confident. Instead of feeling lost in class, he began to raise his hand and answer questions. Sarah noticed his progress and told him, "You're doing great, Tom. Keep practicing and you'll keep getting better." This moment made Tom realize that learning English wasn't just about studying for exams. It was about finding ways to practice that made sense for him. One thing that helped Tom was the flashcards. Flashcards are a great tool for learning new vocabulary because they help you remember words more easily. You can make your own flashcards at home. On one side, write the English word, and on the other side, write the meaning in your language, or draw a picture. Then, test yourself every day to see how many words you can remember. This method is simple, but it works well for many people. Sarah also helped Tom by using simple English when she explained things. She avoided complicated grammar terms and instead focused on clear, practical examples. For instance, when she explained the difference between the words big and large, she said, "Both words mean the same thing, but we use big for people or things that are not official. Large sounds more formal, like when we describe a big room at a hotel." This made the difference easy to understand. The lesson here is that teaching and learning are not just about following rules or memorizing information. They're about finding what works for you and sticking with it. And whether you're a student or a teacher, always try to use simple, clear language. The more you practice, the better you'll become. Let's move on to another story, this time about a man named Mark. Mark is a chef in a busy restaurant. Every day he prepares delicious meals for customers. He loves cooking, but being a chef is hard work. Mark has to wake up early every morning to get the kitchen ready. He works long hours, often until late at night. But the hardest part of his job isn't the long hours or the hot stove. It's the communication with his team. One day, Mark was preparing a special meal for a big event at the restaurant. He had to work with a new team of cooks who didn't speak English very well. Mark knew that if they didn't work together well, the food wouldn't be ready on time. So, he decided to make a plan. He started by writing simple instructions on a big board in the kitchen. He used short sentences like chop the onions and grill the chicken. He also drew pictures to make it even easier for everyone to understand. As the night went on, Mark noticed that his team was working better. The cooks understood the instructions and were able to prepare the meal on time. The customers were happy, and the event was a big success. Mark was proud of his team, but he also realized that using simple language made a huge difference. When he explained things clearly, everyone worked together more effectively. Mark's story teaches us that communication is key, especially in a team. Even if your English isn't perfect, it's important to make sure your message is clear. If you're learning English, you don't need to speak in complicated sentences. Simple sentences, short words, and even pictures can help you communicate better. Let me tell you another quick story. This one is about a woman named Helen. Helen runs a small shop where she sells flowers. One day, a man came into her shop and asked, "Can you recommend a flower for my wife's birthday?" Helen smiled and said, "Of course. Let me show you. Some beautiful roses. They're perfect for birthdays." The man liked the roses and he bought a big bouquet for his wife. Later he came back and said, "My wife loved the flowers. Thank you for helping me pick the right ones." Helen's story reminds us that simple conversations can lead to great results. She didn't use any complicated words or long sentences. She just asked what the customer needed, made a suggestion, and explained why it was a good choice. This is a simple but effective way to use English in real-life situations. Now think about how you can apply these lessons in your own life. How can you use simple, clear English to make your conversations better? Whether you're at work, at home, or talking to strangers, remember that being clear and helpful can make a big difference. Try to practice every day by speaking to someone in English, writing in English, or listening to English stories. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Would you like to hear more? Let's continue exploring more real-life stories and lessons. Let's continue with more real-life stories to help you improve your English listening and writing skills. These stories are simple, clear, and useful, just like the English you need for daily life. When you listen to how people talk in real situations, you learn how to use English naturally. So, let's begin with the next story. This story is about a man named William. William works as a postman. Every day he wakes up early in the morning to deliver letters and packages. His job is not easy. He walks many miles every day in the hot sun, rain, or cold wind. But William likes his job because he gets to meet many people and see different places in the neighborhood. One day William received a package that had no apartment number written on it. It only had the name Mr. David and the street address. William thought, "There are many Davids living on this street. How can I find the right one?" He didn't want to return the package because he knew it might be important. So, he started asking people. After a while, a woman opened her door and said, "Yes, my neighbor's name is David. He is not home now, but I can give him the package when he returns." William thanked her and handed her the box. Later that week, the real Mr. David met William on the street and said, "Thank you for going the extra mile to deliver my package. I really needed it." William smiled and replied, "It's my job, but I also believe that helping people is always the right thing to do." This story shows the power of asking questions and speaking politely. William used simple English to ask for help. He was clear and respectful. This is a good example for learners. If you don't understand something or if you need help, don't be afraid to ask. Just be polite and use simple sentences. For example, you can say, "Excuse me, can you help me?" Or, "Do you know where this place is?" Let's go to the next story. This one is about a woman named Emma. Emma runs a small bakery in her town. She makes bread, cakes, and cookies. Her bakery is very popular because she always greets her customers with a big smile and speaks kindly to them. People love going to her bakery not only for the food but also because Emma makes them feel welcome. One day, a man named Peter came into the bakery. He looked nervous. Emma smiled and asked, "Good morning. How can I help you today?" Peter said, "I want to buy a birthday cake for my wife, but I don't know what kind she likes." Emma said, "Don't worry, I can help you choose. What kind of flavors does she enjoy?" Peter thought for a moment and said, "She likes chocolate and strawberries." Emma nodded and said, "Perfect. I'll make a chocolate cake with fresh strawberries on top. You can pick it up tomorrow." Peter was happy and said, "Thanks you so much. You made it easy for me." The next day, Peter picked up the cake and gave it to his wife. She was very happy and loved the taste. A few days later, Peter returned to Emma's bakery and said, "My wife said it was the best cake she ever had." "Thank you," Emma replied. "I'm happy to help. Come anytime." This story teaches us how using friendly and helpful English can make people feel comfortable. Emma asked simple questions and offered suggestions. When you speak in a friendly way, people trust you more. You don't have to use big words. Just be kind and clear. If someone is unsure, say something like, "Don't worry, I can help," or "Let's look at some options together." Let's hear another story. This one is about two friends named John and Robert. They work together in a construction company. Their job is to build houses. They use tools like hammers, drills, and saws. One day, their boss gave them a big task: build a small wooden shed in the backyard of a house. At first, they thought it would be easy, but after 1 hour, they saw that the wood pieces didn't fit well. John said, "Something is wrong. The door doesn't close properly." Robert looked at the door and said, "We made a mistake with the measurements." They both felt a little upset, but instead of blaming each other, John said, "Let's fix it together. We can cut the wood again and measure more carefully this time." They worked slowly and checked every measurement twice. After some hours, they finally finished the shed. This time, everything fit perfectly. Their boss came to check the work and said, "Well done. I'm proud of how you worked together and solved the problem." This story shows how good teamwork and communication can solve problems. When something goes wrong, it's easy to get angry. But if you stay calm and use simple, respectful words, you can find a solution. John didn't say, "You made a mistake." He said, "Let's fix it together." That's a good example of using polite language. If you work with others, remember these simple phrases. "Let's do it together." "Can you check this with me?" "I think we can fix it." Now, let's listen to a story about family life. This one is about a man named Paul and his wife, Rachel. They live in a small house with their 3 children. Paul works in an office and Rachel stays home to take care of the kids. Every morning, Paul wakes up early, eats breakfast with his family, and goes to work. Rachel helps the kids get ready for school, makes lunch, and cleans the house. One day, Rachel wasn't feeling well. She had a cold and a headache. Paul noticed and said, "You look tired. I'll stay home today and take care of things." Rachel said, "Are you sure? You have work?" Paul replied, "Yes, but family is more important." That day, Paul helped the children with their homework, cooked dinner, and even did the laundry. At the end of the day, Rachel smiled and said, "Thank you. You were a big help." Paul laughed and said, "Now I know how much work you do every day." This story shows how sharing responsibilities and helping each other builds strong relationships. It also gives us many simple English phrases you can use at home. Let me help you. You should rest. I'll take care of it. When you practice English with your family, use simple sentences. Talk about your day, your meals, your plans. Even small conversations help you improve. You can say things like, "Did you have a good day?" Or, "Can you help me with this?" Here's one more story. This one is about a young man named Adam who wanted to open his own fruit shop. He saved money for 2 years. Every month he put a small amount into his savings. Finally, after a long time, he had enough. He rented a small place in the market and bought fruits from local farmers. On the first day he was nervous. He thought, "What if no one comes to my shop?" But he smiled and welcomed every customer who walked by. He said, "Good morning, would you like to try some fresh apples?" Some people said yes and some people said no, but Adam stayed friendly and polite all day. At the end of the week, he had many regular customers. One of them, Mrs. Thompson, said, "You are always kind and helpful. That's why I come to your shop." Adam smiled and said, "Thank you. That means a lot to me." Adam's story teaches us that polite words and a positive attitude help us succeed. Even if your English is simple, you can still connect with people. Use phrases like, "Would you like to try this? Thank you for coming. Have a nice day." When you speak kindly and clearly, people listen. Let me know when you want me to continue. I have more stories and examples that will help improve your English listening and writing. Great! Let's continue with more real-life stories and simple conversations to help you improve your English listening and writing skills. These stories are full of useful English you can use in daily life. When you hear how people speak in real situations, you learn the natural way to communicate, clearly, politely, and with confidence. And remember, we upload new episodes every day here at the English Pod community, so make sure to press the like button and come back often. Today's story is about a woman named Linda and her husband, Mark. They have been married for 10 years and live in a small town with their 2 children. Linda works as a school teacher and Mark is a plumber. One weekend, something unexpected happened. Their kitchen sink started leaking. Water was dripping all over the floor. Linda said, "Mark, the sink is leaking again. Can you check it?" Mark walked over and looked at the pipes under the sink. He said, "Yes, I see the problem. The pipe is loose. I'll fix it, but I need to buy a new part from the hardware store." Linda replied, "Do you need any help?" Mark smiled and said, "Yes, please. Can you help me clean up the water while I go get the part?" Linda got a mop and towels. She cleaned the floor while Mark went to the store. When he came back, he quickly replaced the broken pipe. After everything was fixed, he said, "Let's test it now." He turned on the water and waited. No leaks. Linda said, "Great job. Thank you for fixing it." Mark replied, "Of course, we're a team." This short story teaches us how couples or family members can work together and use simple English at home. When something breaks, when you need help, or when you're solving a problem, you can use everyday phrases like, "Can you check this?" "Do you need help?" "I'll go to the store." "Let's fix it." Speaking in short, polite sentences helps build trust and teamwork. Now, let's go to another story. This one is about a man named Daniel who recently started working in a clothing store. Daniel had never worked in sales before, so he was nervous at first. On his first day, his manager Sarah showed him around. She said, "Daniel, we sell shirts, pants, jackets, and shoes here. Your job is to help the customers find what they need. Daniel said, Okay, I will try my best. What should I say to the customers? Sarah smiled and said, Be polite and helpful. If someone looks confused, you can say, Can I help you find something? Or you can say, Let me know if you need a different size. A few minutes later, a customer walked in. Daniel took a deep breath and said, Hello, welcome. Can I help you find anything today? The customer said, Yes, I need a new jacket for work. Daniel showed him some jackets and asked, What size do you wear? The customer replied, Large. Daniel picked a large jacket and said, You can try this one on. There's a mirror over here. Daniel picked a large jacket and said, You can try this one on. There's a mirror over here. The man tried it on, smiled and said, This fits well. Thank you for your help. Daniel was happy and told Sarah, I did it. The man bought the jacket. Sarah said, Great job, Daniel. You used polite and clear English. That's the key to good customer service. From this story, you can learn how to speak with people at work, especially when helping customers. Phrases like, Welcome. Can I help you? What size do you wear? You can try this on. Let me know if you need anything. These are useful expressions for customer service or any job where you talk to others. Let's move to the next story. This time it's about a young woman named Sophie who recently got her first job in an office. She works at a small company that sells home furniture. Sophie's job is to answer phone calls, check emails, and talk to clients who come to the office. On her second week, her manager, Mr. Taylor, gave her an important task. He said, Sophie, a client is coming tomorrow to discuss a big order. I want you to welcome him and bring him to the meeting room. Sophie said, Okay, I will prepare everything. The next morning, Sophie arrived early. She cleaned the meeting room, prepared some water for the client, and made sure all the chairs were in place. At 10 o'clock, the client arrived. Sophie stood up and said, Good morning, sir. Welcome to our company. My name is Sophie. Please come this way. The client smiled and said, Thank you. You are very professional. She walked him to the meeting room and said, Please have a seat. Mr. Taylor will be with you shortly. Later, Mr. Taylor told Sophie, You did an excellent job. You made a good first impression. This story is a great example of professional English in an office setting. If you work in an office or want to practice business English, here are some good phrases. Welcome to our company. Please come this way. Would you like something to drink? Mr. Taylor will be with you shortly. These simple and polite phrases are used in offices all over the world. Let's now hear a story about a taxi driver named George. George has been driving a taxi for over 15 years. Every day he picks up many people from different places. One morning he received a call from a man named Henry who needed to go to the train station quickly. When George arrived, Henry looked worried. He said, I'm late. My train leaves in 20 minutes. George replied, Don't worry. I'll do my best to get you there on time. On the way, Henry asked, How long have you been a taxi driver? George answered, For 15 years. I like meeting new people every day. Everyone has a story. Henry smiled and said, That's interesting. I work as a teacher, and I'm going to another city today to give a training session. George replied, That sounds like important work. Thank you for helping students learn. When they reached the station, Henry checked the time and said, I made it. Thank you so much. George said, You're welcome. Have a safe journey. This story helps us learn polite conversations in public places, such as taxis or buses. You can use these sentences, I'm running late. How long will it take? I'll do my best. Thank you for your help. Now let's go to another story. This one is about a woman named Helen who runs a small grocery store. Helen is always busy. She opens her store early and closes late. One day, a new customer named James walked in. He had just moved to the neighborhood and was looking for fresh fruits and vegetables. Helen said, "Good afternoon. Welcome to my store. How can I help you?" James replied, "I just moved here and I'm looking for some apples and potatoes." Helen said, "We have fresh apples from a local farm, and these potatoes are perfect for cooking." James picked a few items and asked, "Do you have any bags?" Helen smiled and said, "Yes, here you go, and if you ever need help finding something, just ask." James paid and said, "Thank you, I'll come back again." Helen replied, "You're always welcome here." This story is a simple example of everyday shopping conversations. You can use these phrases at stores or markets. Do you have fresh fruits? I'm looking for. Can I have a bag, please? Thank you, I'll come back again. These are polite and helpful ways to talk to shop owners or workers. Let me know when you're ready for more. I have many more stories and everyday English situations to share with you. Keep listening and keep practicing. Thank you. Let's keep going with more real-life stories to help you practice and improve your English listening and writing skills. Remember, listening to these stories again and again can help you remember new vocabulary, natural sentence patterns, and useful everyday expressions. If you're new to the English Pod community, we upload English practice episodes every day, so be sure to press the like button and come back often. Now let's go into another story. This one is about a man named Robert and his wife Emily. They live in a quiet neighborhood, and they have a small backyard garden where they grow vegetables. Every weekend they work together in the garden. They grow tomatoes, carrots, cucumbers, and green beans. One Saturday morning, Robert noticed that some of the tomato plants were turning yellow. He said, "Emily, look at the tomato plants. The leaves don't look healthy. Do you think they need more water?" Emily walked over, looked at the plants, and said, "Maybe, but it could also be a problem with the soil. Let's check the gardening book we bought last month." Robert went inside and brought the book. After reading for a few minutes, he said, "It says yellow leaves can mean too much water, not too little. I think we're watering them too often." Emily nodded and said, "All right, let's stop watering every day. We can try every 2 or 3 days instead." So, they changed their routine. Over the next week, the plants started looking better. The leaves became green again and small tomatoes began to grow. Robert smiled and said, "Teamwork always works." Emily laughed and said, "Yes, and I think the garden is teaching us patience." This story shows how people can use English at home when talking about their hobbies or solving small problems. Here are some useful phrases you can learn from this story. Look at this. Does it look right to you? Let's check the book. Maybe we need to change something. Teamwork always works. Next, let's move to a story about a man named Peter. Peter works in an office as a team leader. He is known for being kind and helpful. One day, a new employee named Kevin joined the team. Kevin had just graduated from university and was nervous about his first job. On his first day, Peter came to his desk and said, "Hi Kevin, welcome to the team. If you need help with anything, just let me know." Kevin said, "Thank you, Peter. I'm a little nervous. I've never worked in an office before." Peter replied, "That's okay. Everyone feels nervous at the beginning. I'll show you how we do things here. We'll go step by step." Over the next few days, Peter helped Kevin learn how to write emails to clients, prepare reports, and organize team meetings. One morning, Kevin had to send an important email to a customer, but he wasn't sure what to write. He turned to Peter and asked, "Can you check my email before I send it?" Peter read it and said, "It's a good start. Let's make it a little more clear. Try writing, Thank you for your message. I will check with my team and get back to you soon. Kevin changed the email, sent it, and said, Thanks, Peter. That sounds more professional. Peter smiled and said, You're learning fast. Keep practicing, and it will get easier. This story is a great example of how to communicate politely and professionally in the workplace. You can learn these phrases. Welcome to the Bay team. Let me show you how we do things. Can you check this before I send it? That sounds more professional. Next, let's hear about a woman named Susan and her friend Rachel. They are neighbors and often go for walks in the park together in the evening. One day, while walking, Susan told Rachel, My son is feeling sick today. He has a cough and a little fever. Rachel asked, Did you take him to the doctor? Susan replied, Not yet. I gave him warm tea and asked him to rest. If he doesn't feel better tomorrow, I'll take him to the clinic. Rachel said, Yes, that's a good idea. Sometimes rest is the best medicine, but it's always good to check with a doctor if the fever stays. Susan nodded and said, I agree. Thank you for the advice. The next day, Susan took her son to the clinic. The doctor said it was just a mild cold and gave him medicine. After a few days, he felt better. Susan told Rachel, He's feeling much better now. Thank you again for your kind words. Rachel said, I'm happy to hear that. Taking care of our families is so important. This story helps us learn how to talk about health and give or receive advice in English. Some useful expressions are, He has a cough and a little fever. Did you take him to the doctor? Rest is the best medicine. Thank you for your advice. Let's now go to another story, this time about a couple named Thomas and Sarah. They are planning a small trip to visit Thomas's parents who live in the countryside. They haven't seen them in several months. Sarah is making a list of things to pack. She said, Thomas, should we bring jackets? It might be cold there. Thomas replied, Yes, good idea, and let's bring some snacks for the trip. It's a 2-hour drive. Sarah asked, Do your parents need anything from the city? Thomas thought for a moment and said, Yes, my father asked for some batteries and light bulbs. Let's stop at the store before we leave. So they went shopping, packed their bags, and started their journey. On the way, they enjoyed the beautiful view from the car. When they reached the house, Thomas's parents were waiting outside. His mother said, Welcome. We're so happy to see you both. Sarah replied, It's great to be here. We missed you. This story shows how people use English when preparing for travel or visiting family. Here are some useful phrases. Should we bring jackets? Do they need anything? Let's stop at the store. It's great to be here. We missed you. Now let's talk about a man named Adam. Adam works in a delivery service. He rides a motorbike and delivers packages all over the city. One day he received a call from a woman named Claire. She needed an important package delivered to her office before 3 p.m. Claire said, Hello, is this the delivery service? Adam replied, Yes, how can I help you? Claire said, I have a package that needs to reach my office by 3 p.m. today. Is that possible? Adam answered, Yes, if I pick it up in the next 30 minutes, I can deliver it on time. Claire gave him the address, and Adam quickly rode to her house, picked up the package, and delivered it by 2:45 p.m. When he arrived, Claire came out and said, Wow, thank you. I wasn't sure it would arrive so fast. Adam said, You're welcome. I'm happy I could help. This story shows a typical conversation with service workers. Here are some helpful expressions. How can I help you? Is that possible? I'll be there in 30 minutes. Thank you. I wasn't sure it would arrive so fast. Let me know when you want me to continue with more real-life stories and helpful English expressions. We're just getting started. Thank you. Let's continue with more real-life English practice. These stories will help you understand how people use English in daily situations. By listening carefully and thinking about what the speakers say, you'll improve your listening and writing skills at the same time. This is the English Pod community, and here we upload useful English practice episodes every single day. If you're new here, press the like button and keep listening so you can improve a little bit every day. Now, let's hear a longer story about two friends, Daniel and James. They both work as electricians in the same company. One day, their manager asked them to visit a client's home to check some electrical problems. The house was in a new neighborhood, and the client was a woman named Linda. When Daniel and James arrived, Linda opened the door and said, "Thank you for coming. The lights in the living room are not working, and one of the power outlets in the kitchen is making a strange noise." Daniel replied, "No problem, we'll take a look at everything and let you know what needs to be fixed." James asked, "When did the problem start?" Linda said, "About 3 days ago. At first the lights started flickering, then yesterday they just stopped working." Daniel and James walked inside and began checking the wires and switches. Daniel found a loose wire in the light switch and said, "Here's the issue. This wire is not connected properly. That's why the lights are not working." James checked the kitchen and said, "This outlet is a bit old. It needs to be replaced. It's better to change it now to avoid any risk." Linda said, "Okay, please go ahead. I just want everything to be safe." They worked for about an hour and fixed everything. Daniel tested the light, and it turned on perfectly. Linda smiled and said, "Thank you both so much. That was fast and very professional." Daniel replied, "You're welcome. If you ever have any other problems, just give us a call." This story shows how people use clear, polite English in work and service situations. Here are some useful expressions you can learn. We'll take a look and let you know. When did the problem start? This wire is not connected properly. It needs to be replaced. Thank you. That was fast and professional. Now let's move on to another story. This time about a man named Edward and his wife Rebecca. They own a small grocery shop near a school. Every morning, Edward opens the shop at 6:30, and Rebecca prepares fresh bread and sandwiches for the customers. Most of their customers are teachers, students, and neighbors. One Thursday morning, a new customer walked in. His name was Stephen. He looked around and said, "This shop smells amazing. Do you bake the bread here?" Rebecca smiled and said, "Yes, I bake fresh bread every morning. Would you like to try a sandwich?" Stephen said, "Sure, what kind do you have?" Rebecca replied, "We have egg and cheese, chicken with lettuce, and a vegetable one with cucumber and tomato." Stephen chose the chicken sandwich. While he was eating, he said, "This is really good. I just moved to this neighborhood, and I think I'll be coming here often." Edward said, "Welcome to the area. We're happy to have new neighbors." Stephen said, "Thank you. It's great to find a friendly place like this." This simple story shows how friendly small talk works in English. It also teaches how to talk about food, give options, and make someone feel welcome. Useful expressions here are, "Do you bake the bread here?" "Would you like to try a sandwich?" "What kind do you have?" "Welcome to the area." It's great to find a friendly place. Now let's talk about Anna. Anna is a nurse. She works in a community health center. Every day she meets many different people who come for checkups or basic medical help. One morning, an older man named Mr. Johnson came to the clinic. He looked tired and said, "Good morning. I've been having some pain in my back for the past few days. Anna said, "Good morning, Mr. Johnson. I'll take your blood pressure first and then ask you a few questions." After checking, she asked, "Can you describe the pain? Is it sharp or dull? Does it come and go, or is it always there?" Mr. Johnson said, "It's a dull pain, mostly when I sit for a long time or when I wake up in the morning." Anna wrote down the information and said, "All right, the doctor will come to speak with you in a few minutes. In the meantime, would you like some water?" Mr. Johnson said, "Yes, thank you." After the visit, he came back a week later and said, "Anna, thank you for your kindness last time. The doctor gave me some medicine and exercises, and I'm feeling much better." Anna smiled and said, "That's great news. I'm happy to hear that." This kind of conversation teaches polite and clear language used in healthcare and daily communication. Useful phrases from this story include, "I've been having some pain. Can you describe the pain? It's a dull pain. Thank you for your kindness. I'm happy to hear that." Let's now go to another longer story about a couple named Benjamin and Laura. They are preparing for a family dinner. It's a special day because Benjamin's parents are visiting after many months. Laura is in the kitchen cooking, and Benjamin is setting the table. Laura said, "Benjamin, can you help me with the vegetables? I need them chopped quickly." Benjamin said, "Of course, just tell me how small you want them." Laura laughed and said, "Not too small, medium size is fine." While chopping, Benjamin asked, "Do we have enough plates for everyone?" Laura said, "Yes, I counted. Your parents, your sister, her husband, and their 2 kids. That's 7. Guests plus the 2 of us. 9 people in total." Benjamin finished chopping and said, "I'm excited. It's been a long time since we had everyone together." Later, the guests arrived. Benjamin's mother said, "Laura, the house looks lovely. Thank you for having us." Laura said, "It's our pleasure. I hope you enjoy the food." They all sat down, shared stories, laughed, and had a wonderful evening. This story is useful for learning English about cooking, planning, and hosting guests. Some helpful phrases include, "Can you help me with the vegetables?" "Just tell me how small you want them." "Do we have enough plates?" "Thank you for having us." "I hope you enjoy the food." Let's go to one more story for now. It's about a man named Andrew. Andrew works at a construction site. One afternoon while working, he saw one of the new workers, Sam, looking confused. Andrew walked over and asked, "Hey Sam, do you need help?" Sam said, "Yes, I'm not sure how to read this part of the plan. I don't want to make a mistake." Andrew looked at the blueprint and explained, "This symbol here means we need to leave a space of 2 feet, and this part shows where the pipe will go." Sam nodded and said, "Thanks, Andrew. That helps a lot." Andrew said, "Don't worry. We all needed help when we started. If you have questions, just ask me anytime." Sam said, "I will. I want to learn and do the job right." Sam said, "I will. I want to learn and do the job right." That evening, Andrew told his wife about the day and said, "Helping new workers reminds me of when I started. It feels good to be useful." This story shows how to give and ask for help at work. It's also good for learning teamwork language. Useful phrases. "Do you need help?" "I don't want to make a mistake." That helps a lot. "Just ask me anytime. It feels good to be useful." Let's continue with another big story. This one is about 2 neighbors, Emily and Susan. They live in a quiet neighborhood with lots of trees and friendly families. Emily is a mother of 2 young children, and Susan is a retired school teacher. Even though they are different in age, they are good friends and help each other often. One Tuesday morning, Emily was in her backyard hanging clothes to dry. Suddenly she heard a knock on the fence. It was Susan. Susan said, "Good morning, Emily. I baked some fresh bread this morning. Would you like some?" Emily smiled and said, "Good morning. That's so kind of you, Susan. I'd love to try it." Susan handed her a warm loaf of bread and said, "It's still warm. Let me know what you think." Emily said, "I will. Thank you so much. Actually, I was just thinking about you. My husband is working late this week and I'm feeling a little tired with the kids." "It's been hard," Susan said. "Oh dear, I remember those days. If you need help watching the children for a bit, just let me know. I can read them some stories or play in the yard with them." Emily felt thankful and said, "Really? That would mean so much to me. Even 30 minutes would help me a lot." Susan said, "No problem at all. Just knock on my door any time." Later that day, Emily brought her children to Susan's house. Susan read them a story about a fox and a turtle, and the children laughed and listened carefully. Emily sat on the porch and drank some tea in peace for the first time in days. This story shows kindness, helpful language, and how to offer support to someone. Here are some useful expressions from the story. Would you like some? Let me know what you think. It's been hard. That would mean so much to me. Just knock on my door anytime. Now let's listen to a longer story about a man named David. David is a bus driver. Every weekday he starts his route at 6 a.m. and finishes around 3 p.m. He drives through many parts of the city, picking up people going to work, school, or shopping. One morning, a young boy named Oliver got on the bus with his backpack and a notebook in his hand. David noticed that the boy looked a little nervous. David said, "Good morning. First day at a new school?" Oliver nodded and said, "Yes, I'm a bit nervous. I don't know anyone there." David smiled and said, "I remember that feeling. When I was your age, I had to change schools twice. But here's a little secret. Everyone is nervous at first." "You'll be fine," Oliver said. "I hope so. I don't know where to sit or what to say." David said, "Just smile, say hello, and ask someone their name. That's always a good start." Oliver smiled and said, "Thank you. That helps." David said, "No problem. You'll do great. Just be yourself." Every day for the next week, Oliver got on the same bus. Each time David asked him how school was going. On Friday, Oliver said, "I made 2 new friends today. We played together at lunch." David said, "That's great to hear. I told you you'd be fine." This story teaches how to speak kindly to others and give encouragement. Some useful phrases are, first day at a new school. Everyone is nervous at first. That helps. Just be yourself. I made 2 new friends today. Now let's go to another story. This one is about Rachel and her husband Thomas. They are planning to move to a new house. They have lived in a small apartment for many years, but now they have a baby and need more space. After searching online and visiting several houses, they found one they liked. Rachel said, "Thomas, this one feels right. The kitchen is big and the yard has space for our baby to play." Thomas said, "I like it too. The neighborhood is quiet and the park is nearby. It's also close to your sister's place." Rachel nodded and said, "Let's talk to the agent and make an offer." They met with the real estate agent the next day. The agent said, "This house is new on the market, but I believe the owners will accept your offer. Let's fill out the paperwork." Thomas asked, "How long does the process usually take?" The Tory agent replied, "Usually around 4 weeks, but sometimes faster. We'll keep you informed every step of the way." After a few days, the agent called them and said, "Good news. The owners accepted your offer. You're going to be homeowners soon." Rachel was so happy she called her sister right away and said, "We got the house. I can't wait to decorate the baby's room." This story is useful for learning about buying a house and using polite, clear questions. Useful expressions from this story. This one feels right. Let's make an offer. How long does the process take? You're going to be homeowners. I can't wait to decorate the baby's room. Now let's hear another story. This time it's about a man named Henry who owns a small repair shop. He fixes shoes, zippers, watches, and umbrellas. He's been working in the same shop for 25 years and many people in the area know him. One morning, a woman named Grace walked into his shop holding a pair of boots. Grace said, "Good morning. The heel on this boot is loose. Can you fix it?" Henry said, "Good morning, let me take a look. Yes, I can fix it. It'll be ready by this afternoon." Grace said, "That's great. These are my favorite boots." Henry smiled and said, "I'll take good care of them." At 3 p.m., Grace returned. Henry handed her the boots. Grace said, "Wow, they look like new. Thank you so much." Henry said, "You're welcome. Always happy to help." Grace said, "Do you also fix zippers? My jacket has a broken one." Henry said, "Yes, bring it tomorrow. I'll have a look." This story teaches language used in shops, giving service, and customer communication. Here are some useful expressions. Can you fix it? Let me take a look. They look like new. Always happy to help. Bring it tomorrow. Let's now continue with another detailed story. It's about a man named Paul who works in a city office. Every day he takes the same route to work. One morning, while walking to the bus stop, he saw a woman struggling to carry a box. Paul walked over and said, "Hi, do you need help with that box?" The woman said, "Oh yes, please, it's heavier than I thought." Paul helped her carry the box to her car and said, "There you go, all set." The woman said, "Thank you so much, that was very kind." Paul smiled and said, "No problem, have a good day." Later that same week, Paul saw the woman again, this time inside a cafe near his office. She said, "Hey, you're the one who helped me with the box." Paul said, "Yes, small world." They sat down and had tea. They talked about their jobs, families, and the neighborhood. They became good friends and now meet for tea once a week. This story teaches helpful and friendly language. Useful expressions. Do you need help with that? It's heavier than I thought. That was very kind. Small world. We meet for tea once a week. I'm glad you're enjoying the stories. Let's keep going. With more real-life examples to help improve your English listening and writing skills. Remember, these situations are similar to what you might experience in daily life, and listening to these will help you use English more naturally. This next story is about a man named John who works in a coffee shop. John is a friendly person, and he loves making coffee for his customers. He's been working at the same coffee shop for almost 5 years. He knows many of his customers by name, and some of them come in every day for their regular coffee. One morning, a woman named Sarah came in. Sarah was a writer, and she often sat in the coffee shop for hours, typing on her laptop. John greeted her with a smile. "Good morning, Sarah. The usual coffee today?" John asked. Sarah smiled back. "Yes, please, John. I'm working on my new book, and I need something strong to keep me awake." John nodded. "I've got just the thing. I'll make you a strong cappuccino." While he made the coffee, they chatted a bit. "So, how's the book coming along?" John asked. Sarah sighed. "It's going well, but I'm having trouble finishing the last chapter. I just can't find the right words." John smiled and said, "That's tough. But you've been writing for years now, haven't you? I'm sure you'll finish it soon." Sarah nodded. "I hope so. Sometimes I get stuck, but I always manage to push through. It's just part of being a writer, I guess. John handed her the coffee. Here you go. This should help you stay awake for the rest of the day. Sarah took the cup and said, Thanks, John. I'll definitely need it. This story is great for learning how to greet people, ask about their day, and talk about common things like work and hobbies. Some useful phrases are, the usual coffee today. How's the book coming along? I'm sure you'll finish it soon. Thanks, John. I'll definitely need it. Now let's talk about a story about a couple, Anna and Tom. They've been married for 5 years, and they're planning a big surprise for their anniversary. They decided to go on a weekend trip to the mountains to relax and celebrate. Anna said, Tom, I can't believe it's been 5 years already. We should do something special for our anniversary. Tom smiled. I was thinking the same thing. How about we go away for the weekend? I found this beautiful cabin in the mountains. We can hike, relax by the fireplace, and just enjoy the fresh air. Anna's face lit up. That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to go hiking. Let's do it. They packed their bags and, on Saturday morning, they drove to the mountains. The cabin was small but cozy, with a beautiful view of the mountains. When they arrived, they put their bags inside, grabbed some water, and went for a walk on a nearby trail. Tom said, This is so peaceful. It's nice to get away from the busy city for a while. Anna smiled and said, I agree. It's nice to spend time together without distractions. They spent the weekend hiking, reading, and cooking meals together. On their last day, Tom surprised Anna with a small gift. I know we agreed not to exchange gifts, but I couldn't resist, Tom said as he handed her a small box. Anna opened it and found a necklace. Tom, this is beautiful. Thank you so much. Tom said, I'm glad you like it. It's just a little something to remind you of our special weekend. Anna hugged him and said, I love it, and I love you. This story is great for practicing how to talk about relationships, surprises, and special events. Here are some useful phrases. We should do something special for our anniversary. It's nice to get away from the busy city. I couldn't resist. It's just a little something. I love it, and I love you. Next, let's hear a story about a man named James. James is a teacher at a local high school. He loves his job, and he's passionate about helping students succeed. Every year he works with a group of students who struggle with reading and writing, and he helps them improve their skills. One day a student named Lily came to see James after class. Mr. James, can I talk to you for a minute? Lily asked, looking a little nervous. James smiled and said, Of course, Lily. What's on your mind? Lily said, I've been having trouble with my essays. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I study hard, but I still can't get a good grade. James nodded. I understand. Writing can be challenging, but don't worry, you'll get better. Why don't we look at your last essay together? They sat down, and James went over Lily's essay carefully. You've got some great ideas here, Lily, he said. But your paragraphs could be a little clearer. Let's work on making your points more focused. Lily said, I see. I always have so many ideas, but I don't know how to organize them. James smiled. That's normal. You just need to take it step by step. Let's start with an outline before you write, and then we can work on the details. Lily said, That sounds like a good idea. Thank you for your help, Mr. James. James said, You're welcome, Lily. I'm sure you'll improve with practice. Over the next few weeks, Lily worked hard following James's advice. She practiced organizing her essays, and slowly her grades improved. She was grateful for the support from her teacher. This story is great for learning how to offer help and give advice. Some useful phrases include, Can I talk to you for a minute? Let's work on making your points more focused. You just need to take it step by step. You'll improve with practice. Thank you for your help. Let's move on to another story about a woman named Sophie. Sophie works as a nurse at a local hospital. Every day, she helps patients recover from illness or surgery, and she's always ready to offer support to her colleagues. One afternoon, Sophie was working with a new nurse, Emma. It was Emma's first day at the hospital, and she was feeling a bit nervous. Sophie smiled and said, "Hi, Emma. Don't worry, you'll do great. I know it's a lot to learn at first, but you'll get the hang of it." Emma smiled nervously. "Thanks, Sophie. I just want to make sure I'm doing everything." "Right," Sophie said. "That's a good attitude. Let me show you around and introduce you to some of the patients. You'll see that everyone is friendly, and we work together to help people feel better." As the afternoon went on, Emma became more comfortable. Sophie showed her how to take vital signs, check patient charts, and handle medications. By the end of the shift, Emma was feeling much more confident. "I really appreciate your help today, Sophie. I feel much better about everything," Emma said. Sophie smiled and said, "You're welcome, Emma. You did a great job today. Keep asking questions and you'll continue to improve." This story is great for learning how to support others and build confidence. Some useful phrases: "Don't worry, you'll do great. You'll get the hang of it. We work together to help people feel better. You did a great job today. Keep asking questions and you'll continue to improve. Thank you so much for listening. I hope these stories and examples have helped you practice your English listening skills and gave you some useful phrases to use in real-life situations. Remember, improving your English takes time, but with consistent practice, you'll definitely get better every day. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, The English Pod Community. We upload new episodes regularly to help you improve your English in a fun and engaging way. Keep practicing, keep listening, and most importantly, keep learning. I'll be back soon with more stories, tips, and real-life examples to help you become more